My name is Stephen Sanders. I serve as pastor at Oak Hill United Methodist Church in Austin. I want to give you an update on some changes that have happened in the United Methodist Church. In April, the General Conference of the United Methodist Church met in North Carolina. General Conference is the worldwide legislative body of this denomination. The General Conference made several changes in the Book of Discipline regarding human sexuality. Specifically, they eliminated language that identified homosexuality as incompatible with Christian teaching. They removed the prohibition on ordaining people who are part of the LGBT community, and they lifted the ban on clergy officiating at same-sex weddings. These changes were made in an effort to further the mission of the United Methodist Church. What they do is they allow for missional context. They allow for individual congregations and individual pastors to identify the needs in their community and respond accordingly. No pastor and no congregation will be asked to do anything that violates its conscience. Let me share with you what I believe that means for us at Oak Hill. First, your pastors now have authority to officiate at same-sex weddings. The decision of whether or not we will officiate at a same-sex wedding is left to each individual pastor and his or her own discretion. Just as we have always had the discretion of whether or not we would officiate at any wedding, each of us will make our own prayerful decision. Second, Oak Hill can now update its wedding policy to allow for same-sex weddings in its sanctuary. That is a decision that Oak Hill can make at some point in the future. Now, I've heard from many people about these decisions. I have heard from people who celebrate the changes made by General Conference. They rejoice that their denomination and their congregation has further opened its doors to all of God's children. I have also heard from people who disagree with the decision, and they are concerned whether or not they and their perspective are still welcome in this congregation. And I've also heard from people who are anxious about the decision. They remember the divisions that happened in this congregation a few years ago, and they don't want to relive that. I believe we don't have to relive those divisions. A few years ago, Oak Hill adopted a vision statement that says in part that God calls us to live together as a diverse community united beyond our differences by the love of Christ. I commit to help this congregation live into that vision. I commit to work with our leaders to live in such a way that our arms and our hearts are open to all of God's children. I will work with our leaders to prayerfully consider changes to our wedding policy, and I commit to do it in such a way that we are grounded in the love of Christ that unites us, even when we disagree with one another. My prayer is that these changes from General Conference and how we live into them at Oak Hill will allow this congregation to further open its arms and its hearts and its doors to all of God's children. I know I say this a lot, but I mean it in the very depths of my soul. God's love in Christ, and therefore this church is open to all. And all means all, and that's all. Let's live into that together.